Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Experiment is a demon.
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for another ATS News live stream. Let me know, chat, if you can hear me. And if for some reason we see Roxanne pop in chat, let's make sure that we wish her a happy birthday. I'm not sure if she'll be in tonight just because she is celebrating her birthday with family and friends. But either way, it's good to see you guys in chat. Zoe, Tracy, Pointer Lover, Johnny, Sherry. Hi, everyone. Teresa. So we have been following the Madeline Soto case since she was a missing teen. And obviously, we've all been going through these interviews presented to us from the police department's investigation. Over the weekend, I believe on Saturday, Hidden True Crime on YouTube did their own exclusive interview with Stephan Sterns' parents. So we are not going to listen to the entire interview. I highly suggest that you guys watch every little bit. I'm just going to pull out the things that I found to be super interesting, just some highlights of the interview. It was 2 hours long. I believe we're going to go through the highlights for the first hour first, and then tomorrow we'll go through the highlights from the second hour, and then probably also share Chris Sterns' interview with police as well. So you'll hear from Chris Sterns, the father, tomorrow night with highlights from this interview we're going through, and then his police interview. Now, Hidden True Crime is a married couple, for those who don't know, a journalist and a forensic psychologist. So their insight and just interviewing techniques and skills was just on point. So, hey, Melly, good to see you. Guys, subscribe to Melly if you haven't, and Legal Minded Friends, Karen as well. Good to see you. So anyways, let's get started because we've got some clips to go through. Now, one of the things, hi, Michelle, one of the things about true crime that I think a lot of us find, interesting is the psychology behind it and nature versus nurture conversation. Are these people born this way, or are they conditioned to be this way? That's sort of the question I kind of want to throw out there as we watch Stephan Sterns answer these questions and kind of talk about Sterns from their point of view, Stephan. And, I have some opinions, so I will be kind of pausing, obviously, and elaborating or stating my opinion, and I will pull up your guys' opinions in chat also while we react to this. So, hey, Jay, good to see you, and Heather, Cindy, and everyone else who's joined. Just bear with me because I've got some notes and some timestamps written down, so I want to make sure that I'm pulling up. Okay. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for becoming a member. Good to see you. Okay. What are we pulling up now? What page is this? I've got so many tabs pulled up because there was a lot of interesting points in this interview. So this one. Okay. Now, I'm not cutting out Dr. John or Lauren to be rude. I just think it's interesting to kind of zoom in and see them close up. All right, hold on. Gotta switch screens, pull up the right one. So remember when we went through the emails between his parents and him, they put a lot of blame and pointing the finger very much at Jen Soto, the mother, saying it's not fair that, she's free when she had something more to do with this. So this is sort of a follow-up question to that. And in my notes, this is 5 minutes in, so there was a little bit of conversation. Let me just read from my notes. They said that they are sick of the lies that they're seeing going around social media, especially with all these new interviews and stuff that have been kind of thrown out there on YouTube. And if you guys could just take a second and hit the like, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. The mother says, is it a crime to give birth? I don't understand why we're getting all the blame. Stefan has been lying and manipulative since his early teens. They've been told this may take years before this case even makes it to trial. They haven't spoken to Stefan in 3 weeks. They also think that that's being deliberately done because of the document dumps that have been going around and all the new information that has been coming out, and that they believe that he's being kept from speaking with them. He's been in solitary confinement since February, and we know that that's sort of normal given the crimes that he has under his belt, allegedly. And they say something along the lines of they would rather mourn his death than go through what they're going through with him. They know that at any moment they could get a call from the jail and be told the news that another prisoner has gotten rid of their son. What they learn, they are completely shocked about. They feel like if they speak out or they don't speak out, it's a situation where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And Stefan has been instructed strictly by his lawyers not to speak with them about the case or anybody for that matter. So those are just some of the notes that I had taken.
Understanding what he did? Are you believing? Where are you?
Totally.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
the last data dump that they had a few weeks ago, and I went through line by line and then shared with Debbie the chronology of the events, the narrative summary and such, that it's very conclusive, and it does, in our mind, indicate Stefan is a lone perpetrator, as much as we want to believe what he said, that there are other people involved. And again, that's out there in a prior phone conversation that Stefan said. But you look at the evidence that's been presented, and it's pretty conclusive that there doesn't appear to be anybody else involved, and that he is the lone perpetrator. And certainly he was guilty of the images that he found on his phone. And then later the charges were expanded to include murder. Whether it was premeditated, we don't think that. And again, we won't know 100% of the story until if and when he ever provides testimony.
All right, so I just want to pause it right there. Now, they just said they won't know more of the story or 100% of the story if and when he testifies. Even then, are we sure that he would even tell the truth? What do you guys think as far as him saying others are involved? Is that him just pointing the finger at other people, to his parents to look better? And put a 1 in chat or on replay if you think this was premeditated. Put a 2 if you believe it was not premeditated.
But obviously he was involved in her death and nobody else was. But I don't want to believe that it was premeditated, but I can't rule that out. But we hold him 100% accountable for his actions, and we obviously are extremely disappointed by that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's been a process, but in other words, you're learning everything as the public learns it.
Yeah. We're not privy to
Nobody's
anything.
giving us a heads up on anything.
Yeah.
That we're mushrooms. We're kept in the dark.
Yeah, man.
So they're very much in the dark. I'm seeing some 2s, but I will say the majority are saying that this was premeditated. We've got a few 2s that think that it wasn't. That was what I said, right? 1 was premeditated and 2 was not. I go back and forth with that. I really do. Yeah, I'm kind of with Lisa. Like, I'm kind of like on the fence some days. It was spontaneous premeditation. All right, yeah. Stephan Sterns was high anxiety at his parents' house. Maddie was having a meltdown. So you're thinking something like that had something to do with the plan. Like him being anxious, perhaps, right? Okay, let me pull up another clip. I've got the timestamp as 10 minutes in. God. Okay, give me a sec. No, not that.
We're in the woods. I was talking to God. I mean, they made a big deal of the fact that I went outside and was screaming Madeline's name. I wasn't looking for her in the woods. I was talking to God. That's my privilege to talk to my God. I was asking why Madeline and where is she? I'm sorry.
But we, every day, all of this is in our minds. We talk about it often, and we're private people. We keep our emotions to ourselves as best as possible, but we certainly, there's no way that this will escape us on a daily basis. It's impossible for that to happen. We're forever living with this, and I just wish there was.
I want to pause there real quick. Hey, Derek, good to see you. KPM, I've had similar thoughts. I think it happened in Jen's room where her crock was found. I bet that's why he went in her room for the quote dog. Also, wondered if that's why in her police interview that we broke down last week, she specifically says to the cop, when inquiring about, how could he have carried her out, etc. She's like, well, if it happened upstairs, then how was he able to blah, 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 about getting rid of her without anyone seeing? It was just odd to me that she, in her verbiage, in the way that she asked that question, placed her upstairs in Stefan's room when all this went down. So it was kind of like, if she says it was upstairs, then to me, there's a chance that it actually could have happened in her room. Hey, Seth, good to see you. I've also speculated, hey, Carolina, Melanie, everyone else who's here, Teacup. I've also speculated that perhaps she says that the dog like pees or whatever to explain urine that would be found in there. I don't know, though. Again, this is just speculation. Yeah, she was questioning the detectives. She was inquiring about things, all the wrong things, basically, as a concerned mom of like a daughter who's missing.
I just wish there was a way that we could have possibly known that there was a problem going on with Stefan. I had no idea.
Yeah.
The only thing that we knew that was wrong, and we addressed it immediately, was when we became aware of the co-sleeping arrangements. And they were here at our house. And at that point, I put my foot down and said, Madeline's not sleeping in the room with you. She's too old for that. And I said, you need to stop doing that at home too. And I talked to both Jen and to Stefan. And Jen says, well, she comes in at night. She gets scared. She comes in at night and climbs into bed, and I can't stop her. I said, does your door have a lock on it? She said, yes. I said, well, then use the damn lock. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then to send your child off to sleep with a man in another room in a single bed together, who is not a biological relative, and even biological relatives can't be trusted. Right. I mean, seriously, how many people have you heard of in that situation with family members? So I just, I saw red when I heard that, and it's.
Did you, on that issue, did you? I know it sounds like you chastised them about sleeping in the same bed, but did you ever get a chance to sit down and talk to Stefan about that issue in more detail?
I didn't think I had to. I did not think I had to. Well, but I did bring Madeline in, and she stayed with me in my room anytime they came to visit.
Some of the pictures, I saw KPM's question about wish you knew. I'd love to know what room his pics and videos were taken in. Some of them that we read through in the 900-page document, you'd have to refer to other live streams, describe like blankets and stuff in the background and just kind of stuff seen in the images. And then when we went through the photos of the house, I tried to see if I could figure out which rooms they were in, but there was nothing that kind of matched because they were taking over so many years that I wasn't able to really place. But it'd be interesting to go back and try a little harder. The purple one says, do we believe he was able to fool his parents? If yes, do we believe Jen was fooled as well? I mean, I don't think anyone's parents kind of know about, that side of their children, like when it comes to their sexual preference and stuff. Like, I think it's easy to kind of hide that part from your parents. And from everything that I heard in this interview, it seems very much like Stefan just ran the house his way. Like he didn't abide by their rules. He did whatever he wanted. There was no structure or discipline, in my opinion, even though the mom kind of talks about, I took away his this and that at times. In my opinion, it just sounds like he had a very easy upbringing. Like the parents were kind of busy with their careers, with their dogs and horses. I don't know. That's just my feelings along the way. So I do think that not only was he able to fool his parents, but I think that they just were oblivious because they're kind of wrapped up in their own stuff. Do we believe Jen was fooled as well? I'm not there yet. I don't think so. I have mixed feelings about how much these two knew, but I definitely believe they know what type of person and behavior characteristics their son has. Agree. Yeah, there's a lot of things in this that kind of was like red flag to me. It sounded, thank you, Derek, for gifting memberships, and welcome to those new members. If you're able to thank Derek, if you got one, he's right in chat. Hey, Scott. I agree with Pointer Lover. He was coddled and spoiled. Like there's a part where they talk about how he became homeschooled because he just didn't want to get up in the morning. Like none of us, I mean, I would say the majority of people growing up, we didn't want to get up for school, right? I don't know. It was kind of just like he just did whatever he wanted, it seems. And there was no repercussions. He didn't fear his parents. There was no like respect.
Right. Yeah, you guys said that in one of your interviews that she was in. Was it?
All right, let me just pull up another timestamp. Again, I don't want to go through the whole thing. Just some highlights. All right. And I will pull your guys' thoughts up as well.
It sounds like, Deborah, that Madeline occasionally was in your bed. Did you guys have a close relationship with Madeline? Could you talk about that for a minute?
Yes, I taught her to crochet. We sat and did artwork together. We did projects. I was teaching her how to cook. She spent a lot of time with me when she wasn't in there watching movies with them. So we actually put Disney on our TV here so she could sit out in the family room with us while I thought we were giving Jen and Stefan alone time as a couple. I tried to be respectful of their space.
Yeah.
Taking on Madeline, but Madeline was an absolute joy. The girl was happy, precocious, smiling. She walked with a bounce. She was interested in everything. She
Giggled a lot.
She giggled a lot. This is a horrible, awesome world. That child, she should still be here. She should still be here.
Yeah. Did you? So you just described kind of the bright side of Madeline, that she was happy and giggled a lot. Did you ever, she was next to you in bed. Did you ever notice any distress?
No.
From her? Did you ever feel like maybe she wanted to talk to you about something she couldn't, or did you get any of that?
There was none of that. In fact, just the opposite. Stefan would be sitting on the sofa and she would go and sit on the arm of the sofa and break her arm around him and give him a kiss and tell him she loved him. And Madeline is the one that told me about the co-sleeping, not Stefan and not Jen. Madeline did. When she related, she said it was a funny story. She says, "Oh, I was in bed with Mom and Stefan, and when I woke up in the morning, my leg was draped over him." And she went, "Isn't that funny?" I said, "No, it's not. I don't find that funny."
Yeah.
So we hear if these, accounts are accurate. I feel like it goes back to something we've kind of talked about before, where Jen didn't give Madeline the love and attention that she needed. And unfortunately, I think Madeline was getting confused at what love was. And she might have, even though she told her counselor he made her uncomfortable, I feel like maybe there were a lot of times where she did, adore him. And like the mother kind of describes, like she didn't see anything wrong with things and she was happy of the sleeping arrangement herself. She's just a child, so obviously this isn't any blame on her, not victim blaming or anything, but I think that maybe she did kind of love Stephen at one point. I don't know. And then things shift. She kind of becomes more aware. She gets crushes on other boys. Dynamics change. And I think that maybe, then she was not into whatever was going on anymore. It is really sad. Her journal definitely depicts something other than loving him. I think that she started to realize what was going on and that, again, this is when the grandmother, not grandmother, because they were never married. When Debbie finds things out, I don't know like what year this was, but the girlfriend of Madeline's interview says that she spent a lot of time FaceTiming and talking regular, how was your day kind of talk with Stefan on the phone. So it seems like maybe there was a time where things were good between them and she saw him as, a good guy. And then those times kind of change. Her Christmas money gets stolen. She obviously gets older and smarter and more aware of things going on. Yeah, like Jay said, or woke up during one of the essays. Yeah, groomed children can get heavy Stockholm syndrome and can love their abuser, even have romantic attachments to them. And I don't know if you guys have ever read the book or seen the movie Lolita. It's sort of this, like a similar thing. They're infatuated and then all of a sudden they open their eyes. And hello, Marco and everyone else. Stephan Sterns mediated the fights between Maddie and Jen, right? So to her, he was like the cushion, or like maybe he saved her at certain points by siding with her. Like we just don't know all the ins and outs, but she didn't seem disgusted at all telling Debbie about the sleeping arrangements. She seemed very much like that was like normal to them and to her. But yeah, the journal pictures definitely show, her not being happy with things that were going on.
Yeah.
That's when I would have the talk with them. Because to me, I'm sorry, that sent up a big red flag.
Yeah. She said that in a playful manner,
Yes.
but not in a, you wouldn't see that as kind of a cry for help.
I did not see it as a cry for help. I found it to be disturbing to me on levels. So other than that, we had no recollection. We had no indication of anyway that something illicit was going on. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you told Stefan you shouldn't be co-sleeping with Madeline, he, as far as you could tell, he heard you. He said, okay.
He heard me. He heard me. He and Jen both says, well, but she wants to be with us. And yeah. I knew no matter what I said to him, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Right.
It was very obvious to me that they were not listening. They heard, but they're not comprehending, and they're not going to change.
You've mentioned that Stefan would often say one thing, but do another, right? That you didn't know.
Oh yeah. Modus operandi.
You didn't know what was true and what wasn't sometimes.
I mean,
he made it, he was a gaslighter. He could make you think things were one way when they were a total other way, and do it with such sincerity that you questioned yourself.
Interesting.
And when we got to figure that out, things changed for him, and they didn't change for the good. And he was no longer a happy camper because we challenged him on everything. We came up missing money. We came up missing jewelry, came up missing my deceased father's Rolex. And I know he took it, but he won't admit to it even now.
When did that start? Could you tell us a little bit about the line when it started?
Now this is going to get interesting to kind of hear more about his background and upbringing. And hello, Roxanne, good to see you. I'm so glad you popped in. I feel honored. It's your birthday and you're here hanging out with us. Happy birthday. And I'm so glad that you're a moderator for us, and we really appreciate you. So he stole money from them. He stole his deceased grandfather's Rolex and sold it. So why wouldn't he be low enough to also be selling images? Because again, that has not been 100% proven, or, there's other people that haven't been linked to these images or whatever that Stephan Sterns sold, but I really think more and more, the more we hear that it was a situation like he was selling it for money. He seems desperate for cash.
Started and when it started, and like when did he take the Rolex?
Last year.
It started when he was a teenager.
Okay.
And little stuff, and then they got bigger and bigger as he got older. I mean, you never got the truth about anything. I mean, he wrecked his car and never got the true story. Never got the true story in that. So very similar to the incident of Maddie's disappearance. Coming up with something like that. When he called me that afternoon, second call that day. Flat tire. And listen to that BS. And boy, when you look at the images of that tire, I mean, there wasn't hardly any rubber left on that wheel whatsoever. And then they show pictures of these chunks of rubber laying in the ground. And Stefan trying to explain to me that he had a flat tire and he was in the inside lane of a highway in a high density commercial district and he couldn't pull off the road. Again, it was a story that I didn't believe, and then getting a call 90 minutes later, less than 90 minutes later, about Maddie's disappearance. And I go, that's too coincidental. Two events like that in a single afternoon. I don't believe in coincidences. Didn't believe that, but wanted to. I was there to support the story until it was different. And unfortunately, I found out a couple of days later, if I had seen that TV interview that they held the next day, my attitude and demeanor with him would have been considerably different than me making the trip to Orlando and helping he and Maddie out, or Jennifer out.
Okay, I'm going to pull up another highlight. So again, in that clip, we hear him say, he wrecked his car one time. We never did get the truth about that. So again, we don't have the timeline of when that incident happened, but I go back to this whole, like, whatever he is telling them via the phone calls, whatever, emails, I don't think that we would ever find out any truth, not that I was expecting somebody like him to tell the truth, but it's just very interesting that even about a car accident, his parents are saying, like, well, we never did get the truth about that. He's just like so many that we've seen, and he's going to continue to lie. Now, does that mean if he implicates Jen more, that that's a lie? Would we believe that? That's a hard one. I'm trying to find the timestamp I need. So like I said, this is just highlights from the first hour. We will go through the highlights from the second hour tomorrow night, in addition to Chris's police interview that we haven't gone through. I know other people have gone through it, got the files, but we just haven't had the time. And of course, we'll be squeezing in other cases this week as well.
Again, I've just kicked myself for not seeing that TV interview, because my conversation would have been
It was after you couldn't have seen it.
I know that, but the interview took place before I got up there. That's the thing, but I didn't find out about it till Friday, and it happened on Tuesday. But my conversation with him would have been very confrontational. And I wouldn't have been satisfied until I got the truth from him. When I questioned him as best as I could, now that he was in incarceration, obviously he couldn't give me the answers. The best he could come up with is that I wasn't able to think. Well, he was thinking a lot of other things and taking a lot of actions and doing a lot of things that obviously he was thinking. But again, that would be an appropriate response from Stefan, because again, keep telling the lie.
Keep telling the lie. All right, what do we have here? next timestamp. All right. Oh, thank you, Mac J. Good to see you. I appreciate that super chat, sticker, whatever you want to call it. Love the dog pic always. All right. I hope this is sort of helping everyone kind of get a bigger picture of Hey Debbie Fox of who Stefan is. I wasn't sure how many had seen this interview over the weekend. So again, these are just the highlights that I thought were the most interesting for the first hour.
What now that we're on this topic, there's a rumor out there about there being SA in Stefan's background. I think some of the rumors involve you guys even. There's rumors about
Just me.
giving him explicit material. Again, I can't use terms because of YouTube, but what could you guys set the record straight on that?
You bet. Number one, it was, from what we heard, it's Hustler magazine, the nastiest magazine that was ever printed. Never
Right.
came home. I would never buy it, and I would certainly never give it to my child. I mean,
None of that material existed in their house. But I'm sure back then, that day and age, magazines tossed to the street in trash cans. Somebody has it. Other kids bring it to school. Maybe they even try to sell it. But certainly that type of stuff circulated and what have you.
I do find it interesting that the father theorized that kids might have been selling this stuff, and that's how Stefan got it. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. I mean, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're telling the truth.
No idea where he came in possession of this, but it was not provided by us, and there was never any physical abuse or sexual SA abuse at home. None of that. He was always provided a warm, loving, caring environment. So none of that's true.
Do you think there were any red flags in that area in terms of, I don't know, maybe some of the girls he was dating in high school, or did you see any red flags about any unusual sexual interests or problems?
His first girlfriend he had in California, he was really had a big crush on her.
Okay.
We met her, sweet girl. We left California when the state went batshit crazy, excuse my French, but hey, it's California. And we left there and came to Florida.
You notice that too, Jacqueline? He says that, he was always met with love and given anything he needed. And even to this day, it's just, we go back to the emails that we've seen between his parents and him. And he's asking for these books and make sure you get this one. And I need candy and, all this stuff. Please make sure you get it to me. Specifics. And they abide and they just do whatever he says and wants. And it just seems like that's their dynamic between them. Even when you're in this deep of trouble, it seems to be no consequences from the parents. Just something I've noticed. I mean, it's hard to say what we would all do and if we were in their situation, but the way of his demands in those emails, there's no way I would be meeting him at all the needs he needed, just like I was prior to the arrest.
At that age, your kids circulate through kids like people go through revolving doors. If one kid comes in, hey, this is so-and-so, okay, and then you never see him again. There's a parade of those instances or what have you. One of the dogs
So he sort of says that he kind of had these friends that would come and go sometimes. He has an older brother, Derek, but they're very far apart in an age gap. But I would say that he probably grew up more so in a dynamic that an only child would have grown up in because of the age gap. Yeah, blind parental love. Agree.
A friend of his came in, an acquaintance of his came in, and she didn't appreciate him. She let it be known too. Kind of nipped him in the backside.
She wouldn't let him in the door.
Yeah.
House. She backed him up against the wall.
Not coming in.
And nipped him on the butt until he went out the door again. And we later found out this was the same friend of his that overdosed on heroin and died.
Oh.
There is another incident, and I don't think we've ever brought this up before, and that is in California. He was walking down the street with a couple of friends and his girlfriend. And
this is interesting. Because if we're looking at this whole thing from like, okay, nature versus nurture, was he born this way? Did he grow up and become this way? This incident here, I think, is interesting, especially when we kind of think about how people who were, because a lot of people thought that the parents did essay him because they kind of were going along with this whole people who were in a situation like that tend to do it to others. So here's another situation outside of essay, but still kind of an attack from another person.
This man was very inappropriate with them, and I'll let Chris tell you the rest of it. But
well, yeah, cat call or something, and there's
lewd cat call.
There was a shout out to him, and the truck spun around and came back. This guy unfolded himself out of the truck. He was that big, and physically started assaulting Stefan to the point that he was choking him to death. Coincidence.
So he gets catcalled, the guy pulls over, gets out, starts choking Stefan to death. Again, if this is all true. So it's just interesting how that's, the way that Madeline met her demise. There's more too.
Incidental to that, we had just come back from Sequoia National Forest where we went camping with the church group, and Stefan had a pocket knife in his pocket and stabbed the guy in the chest to defend himself.
He's also stabbed somebody.
The guy was later arrested for physical assault, and Stefan defended himself, but didn't realize that he suffered PTSD from that. I didn't realize that until several years later that he was experiencing that.
He was haunted by it.
Yeah.
He was haunted
What
by
was the, just to clarify, what was the trigger? What was the cause of that?
There was a very lewd remark made, and a shout back to the guys. And it turns out the guy was a meth, but a shout out to the guys that went driving by in the truck, maybe an FU or what have you. And they spun around.
They flipped the bird. They flipped the bird, and he spun the truck around and came after him.
And Stefan was the only one that was physically attacked. Karate or no karate, he couldn't get the guy off of him.
And how old was Stefan?
16, 17?
Maybe 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a really thin guy back then.
Yeah.
Was there,
see him.
When you talk about the line that was starting during his early adolescent years, it sounds like, did any of that become criminal behavior at all, or did he ever get disciplined for any, antisocial or unusual, problematic behavior at that age?
You see how they're shaking their head no, like even before Dr. John even finishes it. Like, I don't think he was punished for anything. I don't think he was disciplined for anything.
No, that's the thing. There was never any issues with him. You know, I guess a parent's greatest fear is that the kid becomes an alcoholic or a drug addict. I mean, I have conversations with other friends or what have you who tell me stories about not their kids per se, but other kids, and you know, it's tragic what happens with these kids. They get started in this stuff at such a young age. You know, and you know, there was an incident one time where we were gone for the afternoon and came home, and I went up the stairs and Stefan was coming down the stairs, and I had to stop midway, and I go, whoa, time out. Oh my gosh. I said, come here. And I said, have you been drinking? And he just reeked of alcohol. Well, apparently he spent the afternoon sampling every alcohol that we had. And we soon got rid of all the alcohol in the house. And believe it or not, he was heading out the door to take his friend home.
What was his age? What was the age at that time?
17. It was just before California. So I don't know, 17. And sent him to his room and didn't see him for 2 days. He passed out, and I took the friend home who told me what had been going on that afternoon. But you know,
and again, that's like a typical thing for a 17-year-old boy to kind of do with his friend, you know. So it's kind of like, well, I guess that wouldn't be seen as typically unusual. But what's unusual to me is, you know, he spent all that afternoon sampling the alcohol in their house. You know, I'm assuming his parents were working. Again, his mother homeschooled. So it's hard to say, like, so wait, where were you? I don't know. I just like to know where everyone was, I guess, while he's sampling all this alcohol with his friend, you know? And also him saying I sent him to his room and we didn't see him for 2 days because he was sleeping it off, etc. So that tells me that there was never a point where the mother or father went into the bedroom and said, I just brought your friend home, really disappointed in you. What the heck? You know, there was never a disciplined moment. It sounds like it must have been something where after 2 days and he got over it, everything just went back to normal in the house. I don't know. I'll pull up your comments as well in chat. I don't believe some stuff here. Yeah, I don't know. It shows how neglectful they were. Right. And absent, whatever you want to call it. I think parents were afraid of losing him after him being run over. Right. Maybe that actually added to the coddling and, oh, let's not do that because this happened to him and it was traumatic for everybody. What was his punishment long term? Right. Yeah, you came home and you found your 17-year-old drunk and sent him to his room and didn't even talk to him. Right. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's kind of picking up on this like oddness a little bit. They were always bailing him out. Yeah, it seems like a lot of us seem to kind of point this out. I feel like maybe they were used to it. Yeah, maybe they were just like, you know what? I'm exhausted from this kid. Like, I'm just going to tune it out. Yes, I agree.
No, that's the worst thing that we had experienced at that time.
Mm-hmm. So when you have these incidents, did you guys sit down and kind of have a heart-to-heart with him at all? I mean, what was communication like between you guys?
Oh, we had open communication and dialogue with him all the time. What we didn't have from him was truth, or that if he was having a problem, he would come share it with us. He was very close and close-knit to himself. I mean, never came to us, very rarely, unless he needed money, you know, that he came to us with a problem. Hey, I got a problem. I mean, I felt and told Stefan that, why didn't you come to me with this problem that you experienced on Sunday evening or Monday morning, whenever this took place? Hey, I screwed up. Oh, okay. You know, because the first thing I would have suggested is I'm coming there and then I'm I'm going to take you to the police. You know, you got to turn yourself in. Let's be out in front of this. And I always told them to be out in front of this. The minute you've done something wrong, own it, fess up to it, and get out in front of it. And again.
So that's what he claims. And again, you can tell your kids something over and over, you know, and they're still going to not listen. So is Stefan one of those instances? That's definitely possible too. So hard to point the finger entirely at the family, but as we know, and just in true crime, I mean, the family dynamic has a lot to do with your adult behavior, even not in true crime.
He's under instructions from his attorney. So, and obviously what we have learned has been quite shocking to us, and very disappointing to say the least. And then of course now we're trying to self-analyze, you know, what we did or didn't do that caused this, and we're not even sure. Well, we know we're not the cause of it. You know, we're trying to pursue a conversation about an accident Stefan had 30 years ago as the possibility of you know, causing this TBI. You know, 30 years ago when Stefan had.
So now he's going to get into the traumatic brain injury. Some people were kind of thinking that they were kind of pointing the blame at Stefan's disgusting behavior and stuff on his phone and stuff because of the TBI. And they thought that this was kind of distasteful for the family to kind of say. I'm curious your guys' thoughts. I don't necessarily fall into that, but I just don't find this traumatic brain injury relevant to his crimes. I don't think, personally.
Had this accident, and just so the public can know what that consisted of, Stefan was literally run over by a pickup truck twice. He and a friend were playing in a parking area.
Yeah, before we finished how he got ran over. Teacup, you notice that? Well, we know we're not the cause of it. Yeah. And that's just another example of, like, to me, it almost shows, I don't know. I guess parents don't want to admit like things that they did wrong, maybe, or I don't know. It reminds me of Dahmer's parents. I don't know if you guys studied that case closely. There's a lot of interviews with the mom and the dad where they just are not accepting any type of responsibility or blame or admission of fault. Even when there's stuff presented to them where they're like, yeah, but he was picking up roadkill and all this stuff. And you didn't find that odd. And he was getting drunk at school, and they kind of just shrug it off, kind of like, here, like, well, you know, we couldn't control him and stuff like that, you know. And it's just interesting to kind of see these patterns with the parents. There's one part in this, I don't know if I clipped it. The mother sounds just like Cindy Watts, almost says something like exactly the same. So yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's get back to the brain injury. Yes, I agree that it can exasperate and create violent personality traits, especially from that pro wrestler who committed the crimes that he did against his wife. You guys remember his name? I do not. And then also Aaron Hernandez, for sure. We've seen it kind of in NFL as well, where there's other DV situations. And, you know, does that have to do with brain injuries and all that? It could be. I just don't know if that has anything to do with him preferring young girls. Could it explain him being angry enough to do what he did to Maddie and end it for her? Yes. But as far as excusing his behavior of his perversions, I just don't know if that's relevant.
When he was 7 or 8 years old, the guy came out to his truck, a small Toyota pickup truck. Hey guys, how you doing? Gets in the truck and immediately backs over them. Pushes Stefan down into a bit of a hole in the parking lot. Drove right over him, and hit him in the head with the bumper as he backed up the first time, and then if that wasn't enough, he pulled forward and ran over him again. The fact that Stefan isn't
They hit him in the back of the head first, and then when Stefan raised up to look, he heard the kid screaming. He quickly put it in gear and drove forward and hit him in the front, and then came up over his body, up over his pelvis area.
The fact that he wasn't permanently disabled and wheelchair bound is a miracle.
Thank the mud.
But there wasn't, when he was released from the hospital, the doctor said, hey, be cognizant of any difference in his attitude and his demeanor and such. And we pressed for more information, and we just told that he could have some headaches, dizziness, nausea, sensitivity to light and stuff, may not be able to wake up or go to sleep. And there could be some other physical traits. He developed a tic for a while, and he outgrew that. He did suffer
PTSD.
From PTSD and also separation anxiety, but we just never knew what to expect. But they just told us to be on the lookout for things. And what we did find is that his personality changed. He changed 180 degrees. He was a high energy kid, full of love, laughter, and such, and to something totally different.
The troglodyte.
And
Yes, Molly. In fact, if you watch it all the way through, not just from the timestamps that I'm highlighting, there's a lot of times where she is telling Chris like what to say, pretty much, as he's trying to get the thoughts out. She's like feeding it to him, and I'm like, oh, I think she rules. What's the hen that rules the roost? I think that she has a domineering personality and ran that house personally. So it's just interesting to see their interactions.
And then he started experiencing some educational problems, and Debbie can relate to that. We had to put him into an individual education plan and what have you. We finally realized that we needed to take him out of the school and put him into a homeschool.
I agree, Pink Diamond. They remind me very much of Dahmer's parents, but the only difference is they're still together, whereas Dahmer's were divorced when Dahmer was in high school. So that is like a difference. But when you see Dahmer's parents do interviews together, after the crimes, it's very much, in my opinion, like this. Sounds very much like this. Yeah, same with my mom, Cindy. Yes, for sure. My dad used to, let her just discipline us. He never disciplined us. And, he just sat back, let her be the bad guy. But it worked for our household. He called her the mother of all mothers. Listen to her. She's the mother of all mothers. But it wasn't like this dynamic. Like, there was discipline. Like, we knew to respect our mom. I don't think Stefan, even with her being the boss of the house, respected her at all. Oh, yes. And that's the wrestler's name. Chris Bennett.
School environment, which was held to a strict regime, and Debbie did a great job of managing that for him. We also did as much as we could to encourage him to participate in sports, I tried to expose him to as much sports as possible. He didn't seem to have a lot of interest in group sports per se. Kind of gravitated towards track. He was fast. He was always fast as a kid on his feet, and in spite of his injury, he was a speedster. But that didn't last long because he apparently had a kidney disorder that required some immediate surgery, and he had to have some emergency surgery to take care of that. Again, he discovered an interest in Shokan karate and did well with that. He managed to get a brown belt in that, but
So again, a lot of this stuff, you know, like they said, he wasn't into team sports, you know, karate, track. And just like the mother said earlier, you know, she knits, she takes care of horses, she takes care of dogs. Like it sounds very much like the mother also enjoys like solitary type activities, which is fine. You know, not everyone who does that is a weirdo, you know, but once we're looking at the grand scheme of things, I can't help but wonder, was she off in her little like hobbies and stuff, doing what she wanted? The father's at work, Stefan's, you know, able to do whatever he wants. I don't know. I'm not sure, Garlic, if that's the vibe that the parents were hoping from hearing all this or telling us all this, but as far as I know, I haven't really seen anybody be like, oh, you know, poor Stefan, he had a brain injury.
you know, we're in our early 70s.
Yeah.
So you talked about communication was open, it sounds like, and you were able to talk to him about quite a bit, or at least when he was willing to talk. What about the emotional connection? How would you guys describe your emotional connection to your son when he was younger?
I thought it was very close and loving.
Yeah, it was really close up until the accident, and not that we changed, he changed. I mean, he was, you know, if you show you photos of him, you know, as a kid, I mean, he's running through the house on the tips of his toes and you know, just a little speed demon, laughing and giggling all the time. Really a quite bubbly personality. I mean, we discovered very early on that if he was focused on something, forget about it. You know, we were at a hotel one time, and he got the key to the refrigerator or bar in the room, and he was sitting there at the age of 3 with that key, and he was relentless in getting that key into that lock and unlocking that lock. But that's how focused he could be. But he was, we loved that kid to death, smothered him. What?
You didn't smother him.
Well, smothered him with love, whatever. But
Another example of there being like a little bit of, you know, difference in opinion of things. She didn't like that he said that. I think she also says something in this interview. Let me just rewind this a little bit. She also says something in this interview of like, we didn't coddle him, or maybe that, I guess that's what people think is coddling or something. So she knows that people are saying certain things about them on the internet. Yeah, poor choice of words, right? So I think that she's trying to really paint like a picture of like, no, what you guys think is the view of this family isn't. But in doing so, she's also like created this like weird dynamic between them that we're seeing where like, I mean, not that you can't disagree with your spouse, but you know, she doesn't want people to think that he was coddled by them. And I really think that he was. And like you said, Jay, like, he was left to his own devices, and they didn't notice how messed up he was getting, or they didn't care. Right. Like, oh, keep him quiet with his video games and whatever. Like, just let him, so we can have our own time and like enjoy the day or whatever. Yes, Michelle. Stefan looks like his mother for sure. Yeah, Katrina. She's overly critical of what the dad says, doesn't let him speak without correcting him. There's a lot of that goes on in between these dynamics, but then he'll praise her, you know, like she did a great job homeschooling him, yada, yada. So he, you know, seems to respect Debbie very much so.
but
You didn't smother him.
what?
You didn't smother him.
well, smother them with love, whatever. But there was never any denial of any outward affection from him and us, and even to this day, still a lot of outward display of love and affection.
Even to this day, a lot of outward love and affection. It's kind of like, but how? I don't know. He better respect Debbie or she'll put her size 9 sideways up his, yeah. He may feel guilty for being gone for work a lot. I'm wondering. Although that kind of goes against what he had said earlier that we pointed out that he said, where he's like asking Dr. John about, his opinions. And he's like, well, because, I know we're not the cause of this, or we're not the reason for this. And the mother has also said things in this interview where she said, I don't understand why we're receiving the blame. Obviously, it's not your fault what your child does, right? But at no point in this first hour, which we'll be breaking down the second hour tomorrow night, have we heard any type of regret, like maybe we should have done this, maybe he wasn't, we weren't hard enough on him. Nothing like that.
Nothing, as I said, ever gave us any clue or warning to his recently discovered behavior. I mean, this, like I said, this is a son that we don't know. It's not the son that we do know. So,
Debbie, you even homeschooled Stefan for a time, and that's actually been brought up in numerous conversations on YouTube as well. Do you want to share a little bit about why you chose to do that and what that was like?
Because it was a daily fight to get him out of bed, dressed, and out the door to go to school. It was a daily fight to get him to do his homework. We had several conferences with teachers, and even on the IEP, he was not progressing. So I talked to the principal of the school, and I said, what can I do? And she said, have you ever tried homeschooling? And I said, well, no. Don't you have to have, a full college degree for that? Because I'm short a few credits. I don't have my degree yet. And she says, no, you don't have to, because you are going to be supporting him, but he's going to be doing his classes with Florida Virtual School. So that's what happened. And we were able to get him up at 10 in the morning. It was easier. So maybe that's coddling him, but it was easier on me too, because I usually don't go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. So, hey, I didn't have to be up at 6:30 in the morning to get him up.
And nothing about being a parent is easy. So I don't know why it just rubs me the wrong way that like things got hard for him at school. Homeschool suggested. They're all for it. Debbie says it was, we get him up at 10. It was easier for her and all this stuff. It's just kind of like, but was it better for him? For his development, for his social skills? I mean, I don't know. I guess we would need more information, but it just sounds like sometimes they seem to have taken the easy way out.
He was able to eat food, and we were able to take short breaks and progress at a rate that would interest him, because some stuff he could just speed through. English language, sentences, reading, history, science. He loved all of that, and he devoured it. Math, no.
Hates math.
Math for me, no. So I called it a tutor. You're usually good at one thing. If you're good on the historical and the English side, you're usually not good on math. I don't have a linear brain. So I had to bring in a tutor. But he had to take his tests orally with a proctor over the phone, and I could not be in the room. And did I help him with his homework? Yep, I did. Don't most people help the kids with their homework? I didn't do it for him, but I helped him.
I wish you were my parent, because I never got help with homework.
Anyway, I also gave him courses that they weren't offering in school. We did marine biology. We did oceanography. We did stuff that he liked. He loved dinosaurs. We looked into that. So I feel like he got a better education at home than he got in school. He didn't have the distractions. He could concentrate on his work. He wasn't distracting the kids around him, and he wasn't frustrating the teachers. But when he described his algebra teacher to me as a woman who stood at the blackboard with her back to the class, talked to the backboard while doing, combinations up on the board, doing algebraic expressions, and they couldn't understand her, couldn't hear her, and she never helped anybody do anything. And I said, why is he even here? You were still allowed to participate with the school because you were still basically enrolled with the school. So he still got to go to prom. He still got to go to graduation. He walked and got his diploma.
Got the cap and gown and the whole thing.
Yep.
What was he? So was he in the virtual program throughout the entirety of high school, or just a few years? What was the
2.5 years of high school?
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that he tended to be a bit solitary. Was that after high school, or was he a bit of a solitary person in high school as well?
Yes. He had his cadre of close friends. He didn't have a huge group of friends. He had 4 or 5 close friends, and that was all he wanted in his life.
That also sounds like Cindy Watts talking about Chris.
Just his little circle of friends. He was not a social butterfly.
And isn't that a trend that we kind of see with these criminals? They're not very social. They're very more introverted than the regular introvert.
By any means.
And do you think that the accident had something to do with that?
I think so. He was quite gregarious beforehand. He would run. He would go and knock on people's doors and say, "Do you have somebody my age that I can play with?" He would introduce.
Yes, Cindy. Jen did say that he was in high school at 20 years old and had a girlfriend that was 14. And I believe the parents say that that's not true. So it's another situation where we're like, well, what do we believe?
Introduce himself to people. He would run around and walk right around his bicycle looking to see if there were any games he could join in. Now, he did do kickball and stuff like that, and he went fishing, taught him to fish. I was the fisherman, not him. I kind of was more of an outdoorsy person because of the horses, and I also got Stefan a horse. He wanted a horse, he got a horse, but he had to promise to work with me in the barn. And that meant cleaning, shoveling poop, bringing shavings in, hauling hay with me, going and picking up more shavings, which all the kids loved that because they got to ride in the pickup truck on top of all the shavings. But and now people are saying that sounds like just the worst thing I could ever do is to have him actually work to support his horse and to help me because I was having some physical problems from these surgeries I had on my feet.
All right, now we've got a little bit more left in the first hour's review. Tomorrow night, we will do the second hour's review of highlights, and the highlights will also we'll add in Chris's police interview too. So we'll hear from Chris in this interview, and then we'll reflect back on his police interview that we have not broken down yet.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels to some extent like your son was very childlike in a way. Like it's almost like with his interest in games as an adult and the solitary pursuits, it almost sounds like he really struggled to grow up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I will also say he's a narcissist.
Okay.
It was all about Stefan. When Stefan wanted something, Stefan wanted it then. He didn't want to wait. He didn't want to wait for Christmas. He didn't want to wait for his birthday. It was now, and he would throw a fit. And that was hard. That was hard on us, but it was harder on him because we didn't give into it.
Even when he was younger, he would teenage years, he never grew out of that.
No.
We kept waiting for. It seemed like there was a disconnect. you were like kind of this close, and all you needed to do is make this connection. And it's like,
John, he had no impulse control.
Yeah.
Really,
Okay.
if he wanted to do it, he did it. And then he paid the consequences later. He got put on restrictions. He had his car taken away. At one point, I went in and stripped his room of everything that he had because he had gone for 6 weeks without cleaning his room, and I had begged him for 6 weeks, please clean your room, or I'll come in and do it. No, I'll do it myself. Okay. Well, finally, I went in there and I took his wallet. I took his car keys. I went out and took the tags off of his car, and I told him, you were grounded. Period, until that gets done. And his friends were laughing their butts off at him, saying, you just got jacked by your mom. Said, get in there and clean your clothes, clean the closet and clean up your room, which he finally did because of his friends, not because of me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it was always, I'll do it, and never
Yeah.
get done.
yeah, it's
Tomorrow, everything's more convenient
everything
tomorrow.
was a procrastination. Unless he wanted something, and then he was Johnny on the spot to do it.
Tell me about his friends. What were they like?
What was what?
Tell me about his friends. What were they like?
Well, so we were never very approving of them because you're the sum of the 5 people you know, and these kids were not very motivated.
They had their own family issues, and a lot of them came and stayed with us when they were on the outs with their parents.
They seemed to be more interested in drugs, alcohol, partying, sleeping, and just
Sex.
and not doing anything. And
Notice Chris lists off partying, drinking, sleeping, and then she throws in sex, and he doesn't acknowledge it or even repeat it. And what does that mean, Debbie? How did you know that his friends were all about that? How? I need more elaboration on that.
I grew up differently from that. I was blessed to have a good circle of friends. Debbie the same, but how he seemed to gravitate toward these people that weren't a good influence for him, which is why we disapproved of Jen, because again, she was not a good influence for him. But that's what he seemed to gravitate to. And we didn't.
What do you think drew him to those types of people? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do. We used to call it the wounded bird syndrome. He needed somebody he could coddle and protect. And he did that. And he treated those girls very, very well, from what I heard and saw. I wasn't with him in the bedroom. I wasn't with him when he was doing whatever he was doing. And I didn't want to be. So
I think he just felt so, his self-esteem was very low that maybe he just gravitated, didn't feel that he was worthy of somebody equal to him, greater than him. You're always better off, I think, associating with people that are smarter, have more to offer than somebody certainly beneath you, because they're just going to drag you down.
All right, so those are the highlights from Chris and Debbie, Stephan Sterns' parents, in their recent interview that was on Hidden True Crime. It is linked in the description box if you want to just watch the whole thing, or you could watch this stream from the beginning if you joined late. And it is the first hour of highlights and our opinions. And then tomorrow night, we will do the second hour of highlights in that interview as well. And then listen to Chris's interview with police from months ago. So, yeah, I know there's a lot of head scratching things that they say in this interview. And even in his police interview, if you guys haven't heard that, it's very odd. But thank you guys so much for being here. Yeah, exactly what his mom said. Yeah, I wasn't in the bedroom with him or anything with these girls. It's no one would have thought that you were. It's just interesting that you have to say that out loud to confirm I don't know. It's very strange, some of the things. And I seen some of your guys' comments where you said you weren't buying everything that was being said in this interview. Share your thoughts in the comment section too for replay viewers. And let me know specifics, like what exactly aren't you buying? What do you question? Yeah, they are a very awkward couple. I agree. Hi, the Crow. Good to see you. It's just one of those things. It's just interesting to see where these, monsters like Stephan Sterns kind of come from, and what the parents have to say, in my opinion. So again, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already, and join me tomorrow night for part 2. So we'll go through the highlights in the second half of this interview, and just kind of share our thoughts and opinions while we watch it. And I definitely want to cover the Wade Wilson trial. Like, we wanted to do a recap of it. We'll also go through the body camera, the interviews, police interview, the phone calls from prison, all that, and that's going to be an extensive deep dive as well. I have a lot of interviews pertaining to Madeline Soto's case too. So it's just like I want to get through all those so that I can have a stronger grasp on the case. Like, I don't listen to this stuff in my free time, really. I do it live with you guys. So we've got that to go through. And then we keep up with the Thursday night Chris Watts case deep dives too. And obviously on our Gypsy Rose watch. So those are the stuff that we've got coming up. I have exactly a month, 1 day shy of a month until my little one is here. And so I'm going to try and squeeze in as much as I can before I kind of take a little break. So I appreciate you guys very much. And again, if Roxanne's still listening, happy birthday. Glad she popped in. Thank you, Debbie Fox, and everyone else, my moderators, those who donated. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. It really has flown by, Jay, and I just hear myself like so out of breath, like running out of like lung space. But yes, I love you guys too. And I will see you guys tomorrow night, and we will do some more true crime this week. So again, I'll play the little new outro. Yes, thank you, Melly. And Melly, let me know if you're doing Melly After Dark tonight, live chat over there. And Johnny, if you're still listening, let me know if you're going to go live as well, and we'll hang out over there too. And I will talk to you guys very soon tomorrow night. So goodbye.